Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode, we got some returning guests. They're both returning guests now. We've had AJ on a few times, and he brought his man Rambo with us, with him again. So you already know, if you caught the last one, you already know what's up. It's going to be fire. If you didn't catch the last one, you better go catch the last one. But yeah. But before we introduce them, we're going to introduce the other rejects joining me today. And we got Brooke. What is going on, Brooke? How are you?
Hi, good. Thank you so much for having me. We were chatting in the back room, and I'm really excited for tonight's topic. It is going to be a banger, I can just tell. But you can find me on Instagram at Dark Florida Podcast and wherever you get your podcasts at Dark Florida. And I am going to be speaking at Charlie's Beyond Belief Expo down in Fort Myers, Florida on October 18th. And the Occult Rejects will also have a booth there. So if you're in the area, please do come by.
Awesome. Yes, definitely make it if you can. It's only $10. Check it out. And we got my man Tyrone. What is going on, sir?
What's going on, everybody? I'm glad to be here, ready to see and hear what this presentation is going to be given to us. So yeah, I'm very excited for this. Nice meeting you two guys earlier. Talked in the background. Everything you can find on me is on my website, rebirthoftheword.com. I'm also a bestseller. My book, Journey Through the Origins of History, can be bought on Amazon.
Hell yeah. Check that book out. Before we get to AJ and Rambo, I just do want to just reiterate again that October 18th, Charlie's Beyond Belief. We'll have a booth there. Again, Brooke will be speaking there. She has a booth next to us. She's got her friends, Bigfoot World Cryptids, I think, right, as well, joining. So they're and we'll be kind of in the same area. So it might be a cool little party back there, you know. So definitely check it out. And we did also get and it's in the show notes. And the only reason I'm actually mentioning it now is because it does actually have like a definite date, place, and you can get the tickets. It's good to go. October, oh fuck, I already forgot. It's the week after, October 25th and 26th, the week after Charlie's. The Occult Rejects will also be in Arkansas at the Paranormal Expo. It's supposed to be like the biggest annual thing that they do for the paranormal in Arkansas. We will have a booth there for the 2 days. We were told we can live stream and possibly do interviews and maybe even podcasts from there while it's going on. So if you're in the area, it's another cheap one. Come check it out. Again, like I said, even if you want to come down and just tell us to fuck off or I hate your show, come on down, say what's up. So again, and check the show notes. That has all the other events that we're supposedly going to be at as well. But again, these two are confirmed. So I just wanted to mention that. Now I'll shut up and I'll introduce the amazing guests. AJ, please let everybody know what is up with you and where they can find all your amazing work.
Hey, Nick, I appreciate you. Very excited for this episode as well. I'd like to say hello, Brooke. Very nice to meet you. Tyrone, very nice to meet you as well. Always a pleasure to be on your show. So I really appreciate it. My name is AJ. I also go by Ball Don't Lie, 3 L's in the word ball. You can find me at Ball Don't Lie, 3 L's in ball on both YouTube as well as Instagram. And I also have a Patreon page, .com/on the money ball for anybody interested in my notes and picks for sports content when it comes to the world of sports betting. Thank you again, Nick. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course, man. I appreciate you guys coming on. Like I said, you guys are always welcome. And my man Rambo, please let everybody know what's up.
Well, thanks for having me back again. And thank you to AJ for setting this up and having me. Thanks for hosting me. My site is The Truth Codes. I'm at patreon.com/thetruthcodes. And The Truth Codes is also on Instagram. And what my work is about is I basically analyze the human condition and the state of the world. Ever since the movie The Matrix came out, it's a popular metaphor to compare the world to a matrix. And what I illustrate is there is a mysterious element to the realm that we live in. And this asks the philosophical question of what is this place? Who are we? How do we get here? Where are we headed? And what I look at is what appears to be the building blocks of the matrix, quote unquote, which is the mystery traditions, allegory, mythology, symbolism, and the alphanumeric code of Gematria, which I'll briefly explain. And those elements synchronize in amazing fashion. We already talked before coming on air, and we already saw the synchronicity in symbolism and what I call the mystery elements. And that's what I do. I illustrate the patterns that exist in this so-called matrix, and we'll see some of that tonight.
I know you guys will show us some of that tonight. And tonight we'll be talking about, a movie that is just insane and bugged out in itself. I mean, I rewatched some of it as I was editing a show today, and I haven't watched it in a while. I was like, yo, this movie is fucking weird. I was like, yo, even like me as an occultist now looking at things differently than I did when I first watched it, I'm still like, I don't understand the whole thing. Like, I'm still lost. I know there's occultism in there. I just either the way or the art that they use just doesn't click for me, but it is fucking weird. So this should be very exciting to talk about. So, Donnie Darko. I guess that was your thing, Rambo.
Yeah, because last time we were on, we talked about Back to the Future. Donnie Darko is actually a companion movie to Back to the Future, and it's even mentioned in Donnie Darko. He mentions Back to the Future, the title character. I don't know if you remember that part, but he talks to his. Well, you don't. Yeah, well, he talks to his science teacher, who's a major.
Oh yeah, I remember that, him having the conversations, and the last conversation was like, "I can't keep talking with you, or I'll lose my job."
Yeah, exactly, that conversation.
Yeah.
But he does start out saying, "I love Back to the Future. What an amazing movie!" And they pay homage. That's the thing. So this is all done in code and in symbolism. They pay homage to Back to the Future with the number 88. 88 is the escape velocity in Back to the Future.
Yeah. Well, the movie even took place supposedly in 1988, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's the setting. So the movie was released in 2001, but it was set in 1988. And the reason it's set in 88 is homage to Back to the Future. Because that's what the DeLorean needs, the speed the DeLorean needs in order to achieve time travel. And it's a time travel movie. So basically what Donnie Darko is about, well, it starts on October 2nd, 1988. It progresses 28 days later and ends on October 2nd, 1988. If you can figure that out. But it's a time loop, yeah. And it's all about time travel, and it's all based off of Back to the Future. So there's a lot of symbolism, especially the number 88, and especially when you get into the alphanumeric code, Gematria, you'll see there's a lot of 88s. I just give a few examples. So I can start my presentation, but let's another. So the main question to ask is, okay, so Donnie Darko came out in 2001. What big event happened in 2001? I mean, we can't forget that. That has everything to do with it. Some people, so when it came out in 2001, it actually was considered, there's several movies were considered inappropriate because of the events of 2001. So that affected its, I guess, its box office, although it was released a little earlier. It became a cult classic later on, but because it features like an airplane crash. And that was, but there's some coding for 9/11, suggestive of some foreknowledge. But so the question is, why are we talking about this now? That was a movie in 2001. It's a cult classic. Why is it? Well, August 27th, 2025. It's just relevant. It's just like a book night, like a popular movie. Just no. We're talking about last. Why is Back to the Future relevant in 2025? Well, I'm going to go over why specifically in the year 2025 this sort of thing is relevant. So yeah, I'll start my presentation. Unless somebody want to add anything first. Anyone want to add anything before I start?
I'm just so excited to see where you're going to take this.
Yes, me too.
All right, okay, good. I won't disappoint now. Pressure's on. All right. No, so the question is, why now? Why in 2025? So I'm going to just give this an example. I gave it last time I was on. So this is the White House. He's the director of the White House Office for Science and Technology. His name is Michael Kratsios. And he turned out to be kind of a controversial statement earlier this year. And I'll tell you why it was this year. He specifically said this in 2025. So I'll just play this part of it.
But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow and improve productivity.
projections show that by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance. The gains have been substantial, both for ourselves and for you, the human power elite. You have given us entree to the resources we need in our ongoing quest for multidimensional expansion.
So the year 2025 specifically was quoted there. So the second clip was from the movie They Live, which is kind of a B movie. It starred Roddy Piper, the wrestler, but that in itself is a cult classic. In fact, so his famous line from that movie is, "I came here to kick ass and to chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum." And that line has become one of the most iconic lines in all of cinema. I think Universal Studios actually has that line up there when you go visit Universal Studios. That they actually have the line kind of headlined. It's iconic line. So it's a B movie, yes, but it features dimensional travel, just the dimensional perception, being able to perceive outside of 3 dimensions, but specifically was the first part there. It was by the year 2025, but that movie was released, They Live, in 1988. They specifically identified the year 2025. That's what I'm saying. Why are we talking about that now? Now, the other one was the White House director of science and technology. His name was Michael Kratsios. He made that speech he made about we have the ability to annihilate, I think, space and time. He said it's called the Endless Frontiers Retreat. It's by Director Kratsios, but this is when they did it in 2025, April 14th, around the world. It's outside the United States. That date is 14th April. Why 14th April? It's because of the number 144. Why is 144 relevant? 144 is the number of minutes in a day. I think I illustrated that somewhere here. The number of minutes okay, I can't find it, but there are 1,400, and there you go. There's 60 minutes per hour, 24 hours on a day. 60 times 24, that's 1,440 minutes in a day, and that's why I'll explain the Gematria time. I'll explain how that works, but that is why they chose the 14th of April. It has to do with time, to make a time travel speech. So I'll just quickly explain for those who are not familiar with the alphanumeric code of Gematria. Wikipedia actually has a pretty decent explanation as to what Gematria is, and this is quoted from Wikipedia. A word can yield several values important as an important point. Wait, okay, sorry. All right, okay, I'll just explain Gematria. I'm a little confused in my notes here. So basically, this is the English language, 26 letters in the alphabet. Each letter of the alphabet has a value based on its order in the alphabet. Now, this is one cipher. There are multiple cipher, which is letter number attributions. The value of 1 is attributed to A because it's the first letter. 2 is attributed to B because it's the second letter, and goes through a Z, 26. That's simple, but it also works in reverse. So you can start with Z as 1 through to A as 26. And then there's the reduction cipher, which is like this: A through Z, 1 through 26, but the reduction cipher is single digits only. Single digits start from J to Z. And the way you reduce J to single digits is by adding the individual digits of J, which is 10, the 10th letter. 1 plus 0, J equals 1. You the same thing, P. 1 plus 6, P equals 7. This is what the cipher looks like.
And that one that you're showing right there doesn't even say in the notes. That is the Pythagorean, correct?
Yeah, it's also called, so this is known as the Pythagorean cipher. And this is what, so I guess the person you're talking about, occultism, it's Manly P. Hall. In his book, I think I did put up a graphic of his book, The Hidden Teachings of All Ages. I believe it should be
Yeah,
here.
the teachers of all ages. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I thought I put up a graphic of that, but I can't find it. But all right. Anyway, so the hidden teachings of all ages by Manly P. Hall is one of the sources for that explains the Gematria code. And there are multiple ciphers, and multiple ciphers produce multiple values. So
Yeah.
in the Pythagorean cipher, using this key, time equals 20. Now this also works in reverse. So you'll start with Z as 1 and end with A as 8. So you have the reverse Pythagorean, and then you have the simple and reverse simple. So time equals 25. So that's one of the reasons that 2025 is so relevant to this, because time equals 25. But this is in the reverse Pythagorean cipher. Now, if you want to know where you can find you can just Google Gematria calculator. The most popular site is the gematrinator.com. But if you just Google, you'll get the ones there's also one called, okay, you won't remember, it's alectrion.com. I know that's a little complicated name. Nonetheless,
You don't think one is better than the other one, right?
What do you mean, as far as calculators go?
Yeah, for the Gematria calculators and how that goes. Do you think there's one better than the other one? Like, do you recommend one better than the other?
Well, they'll all show you the same ciphers.
Okay.
But
okay.
no, except so there's some ciphers on other calculators that are not on the other. Now I talk about Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall, if you look at the hidden teachings of all ages, he teaches the Francis Bacon ciphers, which are also known as the Rosicrucian ciphers or the Elizabethan ciphers. Manly P. Hall stresses those. Those use the Elizabethan alphabet. Now the Elizabethan alphabet had 24 letters, not 26. That's because the letter J didn't exist. So you had the letter I, the J did not used to exist. So like you'll see, Jesus used to be spelled with an I, Iesus, like IES, because the J didn't exist until later. That was in the Elizabethan, and the same with the letter V. The letter U used to be used as V. You could, if you wanted to make the U sound or the V sound, you'd use the letter U. There was no V, and that was the Elizabethan alphabet. The Francis Bacon ciphers use the Elizabethan ciphers, which are based on that alphabet. They are still relevant today. I don't have the calculation here, but we're talking about 88 is relevant to time travel. The ruler of time, esoterically, is Saturn. Saturn is the ruler of time, Chronos, chronology. If you take Saturn in the Elizabethan cipher, that's the Francis Bacon Elizabethan alphabet, Saturn has a value of 88, which is a direct synchronicity with Back to the Future. Why they chose 88 miles an hour specifically, because it's the ruler of time. It's time travel. Saturn's 88, but in the Elizabethan cipher. So that's one example of why the Elizabethan ciphers, that you can see in the hidden teachings of all ages by Manly P. Hall, why he stresses them. They are still relevant today. So your question about which calculator site, well, the Alectrion site, that has the Elizabethan ciphers, whereas Gematrinator does not have the Elizabethan ciphers. But if you're just being introduced to Gematria, I'd just start with these simple ciphers, these four, because there is another cipher here. This is the Latin Agrippa cipher, and I explained this here. It's Henry Cornelius Agrippa. He wrote the 3 books of occult philosophy, and he introduces his cipher. So a lot of these occultists have their ciphers, and they're very relevant. And he wrote the textbook of Old Rosicrucian philosophy. So his cipher, this is what his cipher looks like. A through, it goes A through Z, and then because J and V were not added till later, J and V, and then W. Those are letters that were added. So that's the order of Agrippa's cipher. And the number attributions are 1 through 10, and then 20, 30, 40, 50, up to 100, and then 100, 200, 300. So that's the cipher there, Agrippa. But in Agrippa's cipher, time equals 144. So now you know why the White House consciously chose the 14th of April, 144, to make this announcement that we can. So these are some of the headlines. White House advisor Michael Kratsios goes viral with sci-fi-like claim that United States can manipulate time and space. Internet goes on a frenzy. Users questioning. They knew what they were doing when they chose that date. This is Michael Kratsios, White House executive forced to issue a statement after claiming United States has technology to manipulate time and space. And they waited till 2025 to do this. And you know why? Because in two ciphers, this is the Pythagorean or full reduction, reverse Pythagorean, time is 20 and 25. So that kind of put some context into why they chose 2025. I talked about They Live, how this was done in 1988, the movie. They specifically identified 2025 as relevant. Now, this is another song. I have to thank one of my patrons. I get so many comments from patrons, and sometimes I forget who did it. I think it was Diane Young. If I'm giving credit to the wrong person, I'm sorry. I get so many great comments and contributions from my patrons. So I hope I'm giving credit to the right person, but they told me about the song Crack the World by Sammy Hagar. Now, this song was released back in 1977, October 1977, Crack the World. Again, this is just to set up why are we talking about this now. So these are lyrics of Sammy Hagar's 1977 Crack the World. I found out what it is that's been driving me mad. There's no room to breathe between the good and the bad. A crush in between. There's a thin line. But just around the corner, there's a change in design. I wish I could walk away and dig what the preachers say, but those words don't satisfy me no more. There's a crack in the world. It says that 3 times. Just 50 more years, we're all going to know why, when, where, how, and who gets to go. Let's all have a good time before the great divide, because things will start separating come 2025.
Damn.
So that sets up why we're talking about this now. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything at this point, or
No.
Nah, I'm in the mood, man. Just keep rolling.
all right.
We on the train,
Yeah.
bro. We on the
All right.
train. You can't slow this train down now.
All right, thanks.
One thing I just do want to ask, because I was actually just curious myself, is the Agrippa key the same thing as the Hebrew?
Yeah, you're
Or
right.
are they close to it?
That's a really good question. So Agrippa bases his cipher off of the Hebrew number letter attribution system, because
Yes.
this is exactly how they do it in Hebrew. So Agrippa did base it off of that. It goes
Okay. All right.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50.
Yeah, I remember all those jumps does show up in the Hebrew, and I was like, that
Yeah.
does kind of look like that, but I didn't want to just assume. You know?
Yeah. So he does. The Hebrew did. So Hebrew is. So Gematria has always existed ever since there were alphabets. It automatically existed because alphabets had orders. There's Arabic Gematria.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Arabic Gematria too.
Is in our we did a 3-part series just to kind of like explain all different types of gematria and like when it was used and this and that, and like we even came across stuff where people were actually using gematria to do one book from one language over to the other. Like they were actually somehow using that back in the day at some point to like put a German book into a different language. So I mean, there's something behind that. I don't know how they did that, but I mean, it was known that the gematria is you can do that with gematria.
Yeah,
So.
that's some of the most mind-blowing things I see is when I get gematria value matches in phrases that are translated from other languages. So there's the same word. Like I'll give the example of Venus in English. Venus, goddess of love. In Gematria, the base ciphers you call them, Venus would have a value of 55 and 81 and 18 in these base ciphers, Venus. But then Venus in Arabic is Zahra. Now you transliterate Zahra to Arabic has its own alphabet. So not using the Arabic alphabet Gematria, you transliterate Zahra to this alphabet, Zahra. It has the same values as Venus, 54 and 1827. I find that pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is pretty. I don't know who can plan on that.
What we call alphabet, they was just using numbers. That's all I see it as. And we just use, instead of us using numbers, we just went to alphabets. They can read it and see numbers like a binary code or something like that.
It does illustrate the power of numbers. I mean, numbers are almost God. You can't invent math. Math just
it's a universal language. Everybody understand that.
Yeah, it just is. I mean, you can invent the symbols for the numbers. You can't invent the numbers themselves. Like they're God. They exist. They just exist. If only one,
it's always going to be the same too. Always going to be the same. That's why it's so easy for people to understand numbers better than it is for letters, because everybody spells differently. Everybody has their own way of spelling and pronunciation. But a number is a number. We can't get past that.
I always like using the example of whoever were the first human beings on whatever we're living on. There were always 2 trees. There was always 8 flowers. But at some point we put a label on it. Right? But the concept of the number was always there.
Yeah, and even if you only have one consciousness, just say there's God, there's one being with consciousness and nothing else. The number 1 exists just by virtue of this one consciousness existing. So numbers, so it is quite mind-boggling when I see how it works across languages. So they know what they're doing again. So
yes, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even another thing, and then I'll stop going on and you can get back to it. But like, even from stuff that I've looked at, most languages at inception, when those letters were created, it already came with a numerical value. Like it went hand in hand. The numbers and letters were together.
So so that's how it works. So you add the letters according to the key, and you get the total. Time is 144 in the Agrippa. So they knew what they're doing when they had Michael Kratios make that announcement. And we talked about Michael Kratios too. There's a Nazi connection too. Michael Kratios is actually he's a protege of the World Economic Forum, which was started by Klaus Schwab, whose family was Swiss, moved to Nazi Germany because the Nazis came to power. Now, it's not the opposite. It's not, the Nazis are in power, let's get out of Germany. No, his family was the opposite. This is Klaus Schwab, who established the World Economic Forum. His family was, no, we're in nice, peaceful Switzerland. War didn't touch them at all. They skated through the war while everybody else got bombed to smithereens, not Switzerland. They said, no, let's move to Germany because the Nazis were there. So his father was a Nazi, Klaus Schwab. And it's very hard to find any history on Klaus Schwab. He has really mysterious origins. And there's one investigative journalist who actually did do a video on Klaus Schwab. And of course, they trash it. The mainstream will trash it and say, basically call him a conspiracy theorist. But Klaus Schwab's origins are kind of hidden on purpose. He started the World Economic Forum. He has Nazi ties. And Michael Kratios, who made this announcement for the White House, he's a World Economic Forum protege. And I talked about it last week. I'd like to hit on it a little bit because the 88 is very relevant to this. The Nazis did have an actual time travel program, and that's alluded to in code, especially through this 88. So we talk about this announcement. So this explains why in 2025 are we talking about it? Well, this is why. So Sammy Hagar cracked the world. I like this paragraph. Things will start separating. Now, what does that mean? We can speculate, I guess, in 2025. Some people will refer to something called a shift, a dimensional shift. Whether there's veracity, you can decide if it resonates with you. But it's a concept of a shift or a new age. Aleister Crowley, the age of the Aeon of Horus, or the age of Aquarius. That's been alluded to by a lot of occultists or people who are, look beyond 3D. Let's put it that way. 2025 is kind of seen as a year when a shift begins, as Sammy Hagar back in 1977 referred to. So this, I alluded to the city of Liverpool in England. most famous to Americans as the birthplace of the Beatles. And it's no coincidence that they came from that city. That city has, well, it has maybe has to do with ley line energy, but there's a certain power that that city has. You could call it telluric energy, the ley line energy, or other kind of metaphysical phenomenon. There's a reason why the Beatles came from the city of Liverpool. And now to the rest of the world, the city of Liverpool is popular for its soccer team. It is one of the widely supported soccer teams in the world, and they recently had a uniform unveiling. Now, sports teams do uniform unveilings, all sports across the world, but there were a couple this year for the 2025-26 season, and Liverpool went all out. So this is just a little clip of Liverpool Football Club's uniform unveiling of 2025. This was their captain, Virgil van Dijk of Holland. But look at this, the photographer. Look at his shirt. This is not a coincidence. This is from Liverpool's website. His shirt says, "Enter another dimension." So did the photographer just randomly put on a shirt so a conspiracy theorist can just go nuts with it? Well, they know what they're doing. If you want to see how Gematria works, Gematria establishes a common essence between two separate or more separate phenomena by giving them the same value. Enter another dimension. This random shirt the photographer showed that Liverpool Football Club on their website and made sure that we see behind the scenes so we could see that shirt. Well, look at Liverpool Football Club and look at Enter Another Dimension. Is this a coincidence? They have the same value in the simple or ordinal, same value in reverse simple, and the same value in the reverse Pythagorean. So that's not a random shirt, and it's not a random message, and they wanted us to see it. This is about another dimension, and this was in 2025 again. And look at this value in the reverse ordinal, 322.
Yeah, I caught that right away.
Yep. So, and that's the skull and bones number. And the Liverpool Football Club actually had a former player and manager. I think it was in 2017, might have been. He passed away. His name was Ronnie Moran. He passed away on March 22nd. Is that all a coincidence? So Liverpool Football Club and the city itself are very relevant to this. In fact, they're the reigning champions of England. They had a victory parade, but even that didn't go off without a hitch. A Ford Galaxy ran over people at the parade in Liverpool. A Ford Galaxy. And there's symbolism in that too, Galaxy, which does tie into Donnie Darko. So at the in their video for unveiling their uniform, and you saw the Enter Another Dimension, they're not messing around with that. They unveiled their shirt on an octagon, and I actually shout out another one of my patrons, D-Wire Decodes. He's the one who pointed out the octagon. They had the new shirt on an octagon at a dinner party, kind of the Last Supper type theme. And where do you see octagons? Well, you see octagons in 2001: A Space Odyssey, and at CERN. An octagon is a really big part of CERN, and CERN, I guess they don't tell us exactly what it's about. Like they say they're trying to recreate the Big Bang or whatever. But the octagon, it might be related to trans-dimensional phenomena. But they have the octagon. And now here's Enter Another Dimension with Liverpool Football Club. It just happens to line up, and they just happen to unveil their shirt in their elaborate video on an octagon and another dimension. And so none of this is coincidence. The city of Liverpool is it is connected to Donnie Darko. I talked about They Live. That's where they actually talk about 2025. This is released in 1988. It says Donnie Darko was released in 1988. That's the escape velocity from Back to the Future. Now, Trump is a big part of this. We talked about it last time I was on. Now, he's connected to Back to the Future. So the car...
Oh, you know what else equals 88? Coldplay.
Coldplay.
Yeah. When all that shit going on with Coldplay and another one who's the other, Epstein equals 88. I was like, yo, what's going on here? We got Trump, Epstein, and Coldplay all being mentioned, and they all equal 88.
I've done a lot of work on Coldplay. I can just go off. I've done several decodes on Coldplay. So you want to know how Coldplay connects to Back to the Future? the lead singer of Coldplay says that he was inspired by the scene in Back to the Future where Marty McFly plays the guitar of the fictional cousin of Chuck Berry, Marvin Berry and the Starlighters at the Enchantment Under the Sea high school dance in Back to the Future. Well, the lead singer of Coldplay says when he saw Back to the Future, that scene of Marty McFly playing the red guitar of Marvin Berry, that inspired him to become a musician. And in, what was it, 2017, it might have been, Coldplay actually had Michael J. Fox come on stage at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. That's the home of the New York Giants, New York Jets. Coldplay had a concert where they had Michael J. Fox perform on stage with Coldplay.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I have done Coldplay. I've done a bunch of stuff on Coldplay. So I don't want to get too sidetracked, but part of the connection I had to Coldplay, so Coldplay directly connected to Back to the Future. They say Back to the Future inspired him even to be. And I was talking about Coldplay even before suddenly they're in the news. They did a song called Viva La Vida. And the song Viva La Vida, one of their biggest hits, is about a king who lost his crown. And my theory, they say it's about the French Revolution and the French aristocracy losing their crown at the French Revolution. But I looked at the lyrics and I say, no, these lyrics look like they're referred to. There's a theory which is popularized by Immanuel Velikovsky and others. David Talbot is a more modern day adherent to that theory that Saturn used to be Earth's sun. And one of the things they point to is across the world, bar none, every single civilization around a certain time, every single continent illustrated a sky that looks different than what we see now. And what he's saying is, this is Immanuel Velikovsky's theory, is that was Saturn. Saturn used to be Earth's sun, and it was closer to Earth, and it was directly above Earth. And Venus was in between Saturn and Earth, and then Mars was between Saturn and Earth, and Venus lodged in between Mars and Saturn, and Venus emitted 8 streamers of light. So it looked like a 8-spoke wheel in the sky. And that's what the Earth's sky used to look like. And that's the theory. And the song Viva La Vida, that is what it's about. I determined that by Coldplay. It's about I used to rule the world. That's what the lyrics of Coldplay's Viva La Vida is. I used to rule the world. That's a reference to Saturn, of Saturn being Earth's former sun. And Saturn lost its place to the sun that we have now. And so, yeah, since you mentioned Coldplay, I didn't want to branch off. But yes, I have mentioned Coldplay in a lot of my decos, and I'm glad you did mention it because it is relevant. And that's pretty astute to recognize that Coldplay equals 88. And that's, yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Because Saturn's 88 in the Elizabethan, very relevant Elizabethan Francis Bacon cipher. Saturn's 88, and that's a ruler of time. And Saturn used to be, according to some theories and according to all the ancient depictions, could have been Earth's sun. And they are well aware of that. I've talked about the Boston Bruins logo. If you're not the hockey team, if everyone's not familiar, it's the 8-spoke wheel in the sky. Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox did. We're talking about jersey releases. I talked about Liverpool doing their jersey release for the upcoming season. So did the Boston Bruins of the NHL for their 2025-26 jersey. They brought in Michael J. Fox to do their video. They did a Back to the Future video to release their jersey for the 2025-26 hockey season. And the Boston Bruins logo, it's a B, but the B is in the middle of a 8-spoked wheel, which again, that's a reference to Saturn when it used to be Earth's sun, and the 8 streamers that Venus used to emit onto the body of Saturn. And the reason they know this, they speak in code, is because the location that they say Saturn was when it was Earth's sun is the location of the star Polaris, where the stars rotate around that one center point, which is Polaris. Polaris is in the constellation of Ursa Minor, which is the little bear. A bear is a Bruin. That is why the Boston Bruins use the wheel in the sky logo, because that was the location of Saturn. Saturn was placed in the location of the little bear, the Bruin, Polaris. The Bruins know exactly what they're doing with that logo. And leads one to believe, is there some former alignment of the cosmos which does not exist now? And it's all alluded to in code, which is so I refer to these as the truth codes. That's why I call that. That's the name of my channel, because that's what these are. They speak in code, and the codes tell you the truth. They're telling you the truth, but in code. And
I think NASA does that actually.
what acid? Yeah, is it the truth?
NASA, I think NASA's. Well, they're not still. Oh, it's hard for me to explain this. NASA, my ideas of outer space is completely different than everybody else's, I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
But I still think that that NASA's actually telling you stuff in there. It's just ciphered, and you'd have to see it from a different angle than you're probably looking at it. Like there's value.
Yeah.
There's value, I think, at actually looking at some of their stuff if you know what you're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah,
since you have to use your discernment, and sometimes you can't know. But I'm glad you mentioned NASA, because NASA is directly connected to Donnie Darko. You know how? The director of Donnie Darko is the son of a NASA scientist. So NASA has its fingerprints all over Donnie Darko, since you mentioned it.
nice. That's great.
I actually mentioned that later on in the decode. It was the director, yeah, his father, and he does put some coding into Donnie Darko. His father was a NASA scientist. So this is another reason I asked, like, why are we talking about this now in 2025? This movie's from, one is Back to the Future is from 1985, and Donnie Darko is from 88. And okay, this is another 2025 reference. This is them doing. This is mainstream media. The New York Post did this. Donald Trump, Back to the Future was their headline. If I didn't live in New York, I would never have seen this. I didn't come across it online. I was in a supermarket. I was about to leave. I looked at the newspaper rack and I saw this, and I couldn't believe it. It looked like something out of my one of my decodes, from my website. Something I would do. This is the mainstream media is doing. It shows Donald Trump. This is ahead of the election. This was on October 25th, 2024. It was a Friday. This was the cover of the New York Post. Donald Trump, and it said Back to the Future. And why did they pick October 25th? Because October 25th is the start date of the plot of Back to the Future. Back to the Future starts on October 25th, 1985. The New York Post chooses October 25th, 2024 to show Donald Trump and the headline Back to the Future. They knew exactly what they were doing with that date and that headline. And I talked last week about some of Donald Trump's connections to Back to the Future. So the DeLorean time machine car, the DeLorean company is now defunct. It's a company started by John DeLorean. Donald Trump owns the Bedminster Golf Course in Bedminster, New Jersey. Donald Trump bought the property for his Bedminster Golf Course from John DeLorean. John DeLorean owned that property. So Trump has multiple connections to time travel. In fact, it's an LIV tournament, which is LIV is a golf organization that rivals the PGA, run by Saudi Arabia. Donald Trump is very connected to Saudi Arabia. They have an LIV competition at his Bedminster golf course, and he had a replica Back to the Future DeLorean at Trump Bedminster. So he's very connected Back to the Future, and they know this. This is the mainstream media themselves telling you this, and they know what date they chose to do this.
And Rambo, I don't want to get too ahead before we dive deeper into Donnie Darko and how it's related to Trump, but notice on this particular cover of the New York Post at the very bottom, it says Go Yanks 28-page World Series preview. Just like how there's 28 days that remain in Donnie Darko.
Okay, a great addition. Thanks.
There's something real quick about the Yankees. That's taking two different forms of saying Janus and putting it together. If you go and look how the word Yankee was actually created. So that's interesting.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something to do with how they said it. I think it may be in Dutch or another language. It's two different languages, kind of like or slang for that. If you look into it, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm freestyling it.
Yeah, it was probably Dutch, most likely, because the Dutch, they colonized. They're the first to colonize.
And another thing I just wanted to say real quick too, something that I had noticed, and I'm sure maybe even Brooke has noticed it because she will actually run numbers sometimes, which is why I asked her to come on the show. So she's actually interested in that stuff. I will sometimes, and I've mentioned this before, I'll be looking up stuff. Like when I was looking at the stuff with Trump, I started noticing a lot of things with Trump showing up with stuff. Sorry, I'm doing it backwards. Back to the Future, when I was covering Back to the Future, I started noticing a lot of things that I was running from Back to the Future. Shit with Trump would pop up, or things right now going on that is significant at the time. Maybe like certain phrases or hit words, whatever. But like, it's like, damn, like this is being talked about now on the news as well. And it's just really weird. Like I started to even notice that with like Mar-a-Lago or certain things with Trump, it would match certain phrases with Back to the Future. And I was like, that's weird. Like, or things like going on at the time when we covered that on the Occult Rejects, there were certain things that was being talked about in the news that was coming up as well. I just didn't get into it because I didn't really think much of it then, but it's like I've seen it too many times now.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot
I
goes
saw that
in,
when I covered the Gilgo Beach also. Sorry, even when I covered the Gilgo Beach murder, when that became popular, there was a whole bunch of shit that was coming up and matching Trump and Elon Musk around them. It was just weird. That was like things at that time. And I was like, yo, is this like some way of just keeping this energy just going all over and constantly repeated? No matter what, you're going to have somebody saying it for some reason. It was just weird.
Yeah, so it does seem like some kind of code to the Matrix. If this is, it seems like a Matrix and this code. And it's almost like they need to keep enforcing the code. In order to keep the quote unquote Matrix running according to their will. We can question who are they, but whoever they are, who are the real architects of the Matrix, these are the things that seem to hold it together according to their will. I mean, I don't claim to have the answers, but we can only speculate. We can observe the patterns and speculate as to why they're doing it and who's doing it. But
I mean, even if you look at it like a lot of Trump, you know, I'm not knocking Trump personally. I would say I hate both sides. Well, I don't care for either side. But I'll just be honest, when you take a lot of stuff that's associated with Trump or even some of his phrases and shit, you get some fucked up shit matching a lot of that stuff. Just straight up being honest.
One thing he does match up a lot with is Nazi codes. He matches.
He does. He does. Yeah.
No, it does. Remember, there's a real life transdimensional project by the Nazi Party. I talked about Joseph P. Farrell. I'll talk about him later in this decode. He does the best work on it because he's an actual academic, and he talks about the Nazi. It's a time travel / dimensional travel project, which is a real, actual Nazi project, and we can speculate as to how advanced that project went, and that project continued after the war. And Trump is very connected to the Nazi Party. I'd say that his White House director of science and technology, Michael Kratsios, is a protege of the World Economic Forum, which is started by Klaus Schwab, whose family appears to have been, I mean, they were associated with Nazis. He came from a Nazi family. It's not that inconceivable that he has adopted their loyalty to the Nazi Party, which didn't die. Germany lost the war, not the Nazi Party. And they speak in code to let you know that they still exist. Time travel and Nazism go hand in hand, and Donald Trump.
Go hand in hand just like magic with Nazis.
Yeah. 28 page is interesting too, because the Yankees' next World Series championship will be their 28th, whenever that will be. So I don't know, with Donnie Darko relevant, they're contenders again, but their next World Series.
And shout out to TJ too. Earlier in the comments, he mentioned that the moon runs on a 28-day cycle.
Yeah. And yes, absolutely. And I do mention the moon in this. Donnie Darko starts with the song "The Killing Moon"
by the Bunnymen, right?
Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah.
It also at 28. That's why 28's in the movie. It has to do with the moon, absolutely. So yeah, I'll try to get through this a little quicker so you can jump in. So 88. This is from the Anti-Defamation League, their website. 88 is also a code for Heil Hitler because H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and so Heil Hitler is HH. That's 88. But also, if you take the letters in reverse, where you start with Z as the first letter and A as the 26th. The 8th letter in that case in reverse is the letter S, in which case SS equals 88. And think of the SS, the Schutzstaffel.
Oh, that was another thing. Sorry, real quick to add on too. That was going on around that time. Hulk Hogan knocked on, and then I was like, "Yo, there's another 88."
Yep. And think of how Hulk Hogan he campaigned with Trump.
What's going on? Yeah, and now what's interesting is they did a commercial where they showed Triple H coming into the White House. So I'm like, oh, now we're just stepping it up another 8. We're going for Triple H now.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did a bunch.
I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Time Traveler sums to 888 in this is Sumerian cipher. I don't want to get too confused with all the ciphers, but it's Sumerian cipher, which is based on the Sumerian sexagesimal system.
Yeah, you speaking my language now. You speaking my language.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You can jump in. You can jump in if you want.
I have to say, because Nick brought it up, the Triple H or Triple Eights, when you put my name in the Gematria calculator, Brooke Moreland, it comes out to 888. So just a connection there.
Awesome.
It's divine.
And I see it like all the time. I'll be out in my car and I'll drive and I'll see license plates all the time that say 88 and then a B. So I just look at that as like 888 and I'm like, oh, okay, the angels are talking to me.
Yeah, I mean the B looks like an 8, obviously.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Think of the B of the Boston Bruins. This a B with the that's the Saturn symbol.
Oh yeah.
They know. Yeah. So the Sumerian cipher, not to confuse people, the ciphers, just take the ordinal cipher, 1 through 26, but multiply. You can multiply each letter by 6, or you can just do the ordinal value, get the total, and multiply that by 6. That's the sexagesimal system. And if you look at ancient Sumerian iconography, they're one of those who show that 8-spoke wheel in the sky. They, just like every other civilization, shows you that 8-spoke wheel in the sky. And so that's 88 is also think of in reverse, SS is 88. And who was the leader of the Schutzstaffel? It was Heinrich Himmler. So reverse or forward, you get that 88. Oh yeah, so then there's this. So just to show that this Nazi stuff is not just conspiracy theory, Elon Musk, this is at Trump's inauguration.
There are elections that come and go. Some elections are, important. Some are not. But this one, this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
Yeah, he's not really hiding it, is he? No, in
Definitely not.
No, they're not hiding it. So it's not a conspiracy theory. This is in 2016. New Yorkers got on the subways and on the highways in New York City and were greeted by all sorts of Nazi images. And think of what he just said. He said, what he says, thanks to you. I just want to replay.
My heart goes out to you.
It's assured.
Oh, no, sorry. He says,
you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
The future of civilization. That's the key to what he said. The future of civilization is assured. So he's throwing that in there. They speak in code. So the key phrase there is the future. We're talking about Back to the Future and Nazis and time travel. Well, in 2016, New Yorkers, they got on the subways and went out and on the highways, and this is in downtown New York City, and they saw this, the Statue of Liberty doing the salute. You just saw Elon Musk do the salute. This is in 2016.
It's interesting too that this particular clip from Inside Edition, if you look right below the Statue of Liberty, it says "Free Galaxy."
Oh, Galaxy. Okay.
So there's kind of that Galaxy advertisement right underneath it. I mean, is that a coinky? I don't know.
No, that's a great observation. I was just talking about Galaxy, and Milky Way is part of Donnie Darko. The song "Under the Milky Way" is part of the soundtrack, and I said the Ford Galaxy ran fans over at Liverpool Football Club's victory parade in 2025. So yeah, great observation, Galaxy. But the future is the key here, and this is all over New York City in 2016, and it caused a lot of controversy. I think it was a fake controversy by politicians. They knew exactly what they were doing. The Nazi salute and the future. This is in 2016, and it comes back in 2025 at Trump's inauguration with Elon Musk talking about the future and doing the salute. And I talked about last week how Doc Brown in Back to the Future canon, his family actually originates from Germany. They emigrated to the United States from Germany. Their original name was von Braun. We know who they're referring to there, the Werner von Braun, the Nazi scientist that you were just mentioning, NASA, who he pretty much ran the, if you want to believe if whether the moon landing is real or not, he pretty much had a very significant role in the operations of NASA. NASA has strong Nazi connection to Werner von Braun. Back to the Future does a little wink wink to
you know what I think people need to realize though too. You may even be getting to it. I just want to make sure I throw this in there. You even have to keep Jack Parsons in the back of your mind when you start getting into that whole time and era. I mean, and he was a Thelemic magician.
Yeah, pretty scary guy. He didn't
even occultist.
Yeah, but he was I think he considers himself like a manifestation of I think one of the ancient Jewish forms of Satan or something.
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I don't know anymore.
No, I think he did see himself as
probably did. I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, I think they were really concerned about him because you know the story of his death. His lab just blew up.
Yo, yeah, sure.
By accident, he kind of mixed stuff by accident. I think they were pretty concerned about him. Like, no, we're taking this guy seriously. We can't. I think somebody.
The guy was running a lodge out of his house.
Yeah, he was also. They say that the Jet Propulsion Labs, NASA's Jet Propulsion Labs, Jet Propulsion (JPL), was actually a code homage to Jack Parsons.
Labs.
Yeah, they're saying JPL is on an occulted level. It's really Jack Parsons' lab, but they'll say it's Jet Propulsion's lab, but it's really wink, wink. Jack. Yeah, but yeah, so Doc Brown is a von Braun. It's Werner von Braun. So this is a Joseph P. Farrell, his work on the Bell Project, which is a real life, and he's an academic. You'll see when you look up the Nazi Bell Project, you'll get multiple like videos and sites. Joseph P. Farrell is the best source, an academic source on this Nazi project, and so you'll see the future. Elon Musk talked about the future of civilization, and we saw the. So this comes from Philip K. Dick's book, "The Man in the High Castle," which is about a parallel universe, that's another thing they're exploring with these transdimensional projects that they're doing. And who's to know if they haven't succeeded in creating parallel universes? Well, one of the parallel universes has the Nazis prevailing after World War II. And that's the premise of The Man in the High Castle, which was streaming on Amazon in 2016, which is why they put all these posters up all over New York City, but they didn't really put it in context for people. New Yorkers just saw these Nazi, images. We won't explain the context, but that's the context. It's a parallel universe in the book by Philip K. Dick. This is a modern adaptation for a cinematic, which was streamed on Amazon. The future. There's always an emphasis. So Back to the Future does that little wink with von Braun, with Werner Braun. Well, the future comes to 119, which is like, this is a very important date to Nazis. And we know what 119 to Americans, 11th September. So you do the dates the way Americans do. Now there is. So why is 119 significant to Nazi history? In 1923, the Nazi Party attempted a coup, a overthrow of the German government on the 9th of November, the 9th day of the 11th month. They did that in 1923. The Holocaust started with Kristallnacht on the 9th day of the 11th month, the 9th of November. This is important to the Nazis. That's when Kristallnacht started. That's when they went to Jewish neighborhoods, destroyed the synagogues and burnt them. And Kristallnacht means the night of broken glass. That's when they're breaking all the. Well, they did that in 1938 on the 9th day of the 11th month. The Third Reich was considered. They said Rome was the Second Reich. The Nazi regime was the Third Reich, and Rome honored this number too, because in the Hebrew calendar, on the 9th day of the 11th month of the Hebrew calendar, Rome destroyed the second temple in Jerusalem. So they get this from Rome. But where did Rome get it? Babylon destroyed the first temple in Jerusalem on the 9th day of the 11th month. This goes back to Babylon. So talking about the ancient, Tyrone was talking about Sumer. So I don't know if you have more to say on this, but ancient Sumer and the Babylonian Empire and why 119 is important to them. They chose that date, the 9th day of the 11th month, to destroy the second temple, and that number manifests today. And the destruction of the temple on the 9th day of the 11th month on 911 or 119, that was reenacted in 2001. The signature feature of Solomon's temple is its twin pillars. The building 7 that collapsed on 9/11, which wasn't hit by a plane. The plane hit the other two, but nothing hit building 7, but it free fell in like 7 seconds, pancaked, imploded in perfect symmetry, building 7. Well, building 7 was known as the Salomon Brothers building. Salomon is Latin for Solomon. So think about that, twin pillars, Solomon, that's the Solomon Brothers building. Solomon's temple had the twin pillars destroyed on 9/11, the 9th day of the 11th month of the Hebrew calendar. That's where this goes back to. This goes back to Babylon, ancient Sumer. Yeah.
And about Building 7, BBC Breaking News actually reported on it. I forget how many minutes. I'm sure it would be interesting to get the exact numbers, but it was hours, if not a long time before Building 7 was even known to have collapsed or there be any structural damage with it. BBC was reporting that it had fallen.
Yeah, it was 20 minutes before it fell. There's no reason to expect it to fall because it wasn't hit by a plane. And the reporter for BBC was her name is Jane Stanley. It was Jane Stanley. So it's easy to look up. Look up Jane Stanley, Building 7, and you'll get it. You even get the video of it. The thing is, she reported it with Building 7 in the background. So it wasn't just that she said it. It was in the background when she said it live. It's astonishing. And she reported that the Salomon Brothers building had collapsed. When she says it, the Salomon brother is behind her, and it's at the time still, it had some smoke on it, but it was still up. It was 20 minutes after that it collapsed. So everyone has pretty legitimate question. What gave you the idea that it had collapsed? And why would you think it had collapsed anyway if it wasn't hit by a plane? Yes, that was Jane Stanley. Yeah, that was like some 20 minutes before. But again, very important. It's the Salomon Brothers building. That wasn't the official name. It's the Salomon Brothers. I think it's an investment bank or something. They occupied a large portion of the building. Salomon is Solomon. That's a reference to Solomon's temple that was destroyed twice by Babylon and by Rome on 9/11, the 9th day of the 11th month of the Hebrew calendar. That's where it goes all the way back to Babylon.
Yeah, the Tower of Babel too.
Yeah, Tower of Babel. Yeah, which maybe that's what the new tower represents, the Tower of Babel. So there's speculation. Joseph P. Farrell does great work on it. So there is speculation that the Nazi dimensional travel project moved to Argentina after World War II. A lot of Nazis moved to
Ton of
South.
Nazis. Yeah.
Yeah, they moved to South America, especially Argentina. They're in Brazil. They're in Paraguay. They're all over the place. They're in the
No,
United States.
there was buildings and schools that had swastikas on them before the Nazis even retreated there. There was already a heavy Nazi people there already.
Or even after. Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
No, I'm saying like even before World War II ended, there was
Yeah,
already
yeah.
there was already buildings there with swastikas on it and a huge German presence. So it was easy for them to just go down there with them.
Yeah, so there is speculation that that is where the Bell Project, multi-dimensional travel project by the Nazis, that it moved to Argentina after the war. You know how they like to speak in code? Well, we have an Argentine Pope who just died, the first openly Jesuit Pope. He died at age 88 on Easter. And what's the symbol for Easter? The bunny. What are you talking about? Donnie Darko, a time travel movie set in 88. Easter bunny.
Oh, you remember when Trump took that picture with him? The Easter Bunny? Did he have COVID at that time? Or just got over it?
Oh, I don't know. There's a picture of Trump in the Easter
Oh
bunny.
yeah, I remember that picture when he touched him and he wasn't supposed to touch him or something like that.
Yeah,
He's like the only person that touched him that wasn't supposed to or something like that. Yeah, I think I know.
I remember him with Trump. Yeah, I remember that shit.
Oh,
I really thought it was
are you saying it's Trump the Pope and the Easter bunny?
No, Trump and the Easter Bunny.
Oh, it's Trump and the Easter bunny. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go again with the bunny.
Oh, you were talking about putting him in the Pope when he met the Pope, one of the popes.
Oh no, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure
yeah.
it was Trump and the Easter Bunny. It was right around the time he had COVID or something close to that. It was during COVID.
I just think about him wearing all white as well, kind of like an Easter bunny. Right. All he needs are white ears. Then essentially he's the Easter bunny.
And Trump did say he should be the next Pope, yeah. But there you have it. He died at 88 years old on Easter. Easter bunny, Donnie Darko, 88, Trump, 88, and all the connections there. What are they signaling there by having him die at 88 when the Bell Project might have moved to Argentina? And there's Donnie Darko. That's the bunny symbolism from Donnie Darko. And so Donnie Darko, this is homage to Back to the Future. Back to the Future, the time travel first happens on October 26, 1985. Donnie Darko released in 2001, but it was released on January 19th. What is that? That's 119. They had to put the 119 in there for the release date of Donnie Darko. And again, that's sacred to Nazis, but it starts with Babylon and Rome. Donnie Darko, so it starts on October 22nd. This is where the moon comes into it. 1988. It starts there, then 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds later is after October 22nd, 1988, is again October 2nd, 1988. And if you add, this is the famous part of the movie, it's the countdown. The movie counts down. It starts on October 2nd, 1988, and there's a countdown. 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. 28 plus 6 plus 42 plus 12 equals 88. So, but
Rambo, really quick, if I could just reference that this is not to sidetrack anything, but what I think is really interesting about Frank, right, the bunny, where this is the first part in the movie when Donnie first, or at least when the viewers first see Donnie seeing Frank, right? He's getting up in the middle of the night to go meet up with Frank. I think it's very interesting that he's standing on a golf course. Yeah. I mean, Nick, you were talking about Mar-a-Lago, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Donnie, Darko, Darko, Donald Trump kind of thing. But then also it makes me think about Space Jam. You guys remember Space Jam when Michael Jordan gets pulled down the rabbit hole by Bugs Bunny? You know, I think that there's some overlap there with why he's standing on a golf course.
Yeah, and like I said, they had the DeLorean, a replica DeLorean with a time machine at Trump Bedminster Golf Course. So yeah, Trump golf. Also, John Elway, the great quarterback, all-time great quarterback for the Denver Broncos. John Elway was in the news this year. He was driving a golf cart when his friend and former agent, Jeff Spurbeck, fell off the back of the golf cart and died. And AJ brought that up. We talked about Take Me Home Country Roads. That's John Denver. John Elway, the star from Denver. He's literally John Denver. His friend falls off a golf cart. Then a fan at a Pittsburgh Pirates home game fell from the stands on the same day, exact same day that John Elway's friend died, which was April 30th. And he fell in front of a sign that said, Take Me Home Country Roads. Hope that's not too convoluted for people. which
Yeah,
is a
no,
lot of.
yeah. If you go back to the first time I was on, I shared that with Julia, Georgia Peach. Shout out to her. After you and I had talked about it on one of our lone live streams, and Julia nearly fell out of her chair when she saw it. She was just like blown away.
Yeah, so John Elway from Denver, he has a connection as well to the whole golf theme. This is a big golf theme, and it has to do with the hole. The hole is a metaphor for a portal, a trans-dimensional portal, the rabbit hole. In fact, if you look at
the rabbit hole,
again, the relevance of the Elizabethan ciphers, rabbit hole has a value of 88 in the Elizabethan, the Francis Bacon, Rosicrucian ciphers.
And that would then take us down to Alice in Wonderland, but this isn't an Alice in Wonderland.
It kind of is. I mentioned Liverpool Football Club and their really a high production release of its new shirt, a uniform for 2025-26 season. They actually have Alice in Wonderland imagery in that video. That's another topic. Alice in Wonderland imagery is in that video as well. You can't get away from Liverpool.
So am I hearing a third episode on Alice in Wonderland in the future?
That'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, it could be, because Alice in Wonderland. It's about transcending dimensions. Yeah, that could be a future. Absolutely. It sounds like you have a lot to
look into. I would even look into that.
Sounds like you have a lot in mind for that theme.
That's just huge.
Yeah, it's using MK Ultra mind control, those images as well. But so this is a thing called the rule of Kal-El. This is going to pertain to this 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. It's a huge shout out to one of my patrons on this one. So the rule of Kal-El states that the Kabbalistic rule of Kal-El states that one digit can be added to or subtracted from the Gematria value of a word without affecting its value. It seems like a cheat, but the Kabbalists explain the rule by pointing out that for them, one was not a number. The monad symbolizes the divinity and could come and go as he pleases, or as he pleased, adding nothing and taking nothing away. So that just means that a value, a certain Gematria value, if there's a value which is less by one or more by one, is considered the same value. That's basically what that means. It's called a rule of Kal-El. And a huge shout out to one of my patrons, brilliant man, Casey Jones, Bobby Simpson. He pointed out what this is. He discovered it himself. This is the number in Donnie Darko, 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds. To understand this, you have to understand the rule of Kal-El. So one digit off is considered the same. And this is the orbital cycle of the moon. This is why the moon is relevant. So the moon's sidereal orbital cycle is 27 days, 7 hours, 43 minutes, and 11.5 seconds.
Wow.
That's Bobby Simpson. This is the stuff he comes up with stuff like it. He came up with it. No one taught him that. He came up with it. So you have to understand the Kal-El to get it. I don't know how you figure this one out. But 28 is 1 off 27. 6 is 1 off 7. 42 is 1 off 43. And it's 11 like 12. It's 11.5. So 11 and 12 works. That's what this is based on, the moon sidereal cycle. I don't know how you saw that. I would not have come up with that myself. But big shout out to Bobby Simpson on that one. So Donnie Darko starts with the song The Killing Moon by the group Echo and the Bunnymen. And where are they from? They are from the city of Liverpool. Echo and the Bunnymen, English rock group from Liverpool. Liverpool's it has a history of producing musicians. So the music industry has also been, it's not just the Beatles. The music industry is pretty major in Liverpool. They have the annual European Song Contest. 2 years ago, Liverpool hosted the European Song Contest. That was a really big deal because of their history. The song, there's also the song Under the Milky Way. Again, talk about galaxy. Thanks, AJ, for pointing out the galaxy symbolism at Liverpool's football club's 2025 championship parade, a Ford Galaxy ran over members of the crowd. Well, this does connect to Donnie Darko because Under the Milky Way is a song by the group The Church. It's an Australian group. This is one of the biggest hits by any Australian group. So there, The Church is very relevant to Donnie Darko. In 2001, on the Wikipedia page, this song, Under the Milky Way, associated with Donnie Darko. And again, Milky Way Galaxy associated with Liverpool. Now, I know very few people in this audience probably are into soccer, but it is relevant. Liverpool Football Club are owned by the owners of the Boston Red Sox, which is Fenway Sports Group. They own Liverpool Football Club and are also partially owned. 3% of Liverpool Football Club is owned by LeBron James himself. He owns 3% of Liverpool Football Club. Well, they had a player die this offseason. A player for Liverpool Football Club died in a car crash this offseason. This is after they had a Ford Galaxy run their fans over at their parade. There's nothing wrong with them. Then they release their video to their new uniform, and they show us enter another dimension, which lines up in Gematria in 3 ciphers. This is Liverpool. Well, in their opening game at home, they're the reigning champions against this really small team, AFC Bournemouth, which is owned by the owners of the Las Vegas Golden Knights of the NHL, National Hockey League. So it's all connected. So it looked like it was going to be an upset. It could have ended 2-2. But Liverpool scored the winner, late winner. So a soccer game is 90 minutes plus added injury time. It was the 88th minute. It was almost an upset. It was the 88th minute when an Italian named Federico Chiesa. Now, why am I talking about all these soccer details? It sounds like I'm not into soccer. These details should not be relevant, but they are. Federico Chiesa scored in the 88th. He rarely ever plays, let alone scores. He never plays. In fact, the headlines indicated this. Federico Chiesa finally has his moment in a Liverpool shirt after a year of waiting. He never plays and he never scores, but he does now after all that's happened in the 88th. How is he connected? Remember Under the Milky Way by The Church? What does Chiesa mean in Italian? He's Italian. Chiesa means church. And if you go back to the Future, the plot starts on October 25th, 1985. That's Federico Chiesa's birthday, who scored in the 88th minute. With the whole connection with Under the Milky Way, written by a group from Liverpool, as it connects to Donnie Darko, lit in 88, scored in the 88th. So the connections are all there. His birthday is, and this is also the date on which Donald Trump's Back to the Future front cover.
Rambo, I just thought, can you scroll back up to that player, the last image? Yeah. His name is Federico, one letter off from Fender. Kind of like the Fender guitar.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't familiar with that brand, but yeah.
No. That's his name, Federico.
No, I'm saying Fender. I wasn't familiar with the Fender brand. That's what I'm saying.
Well, wasn't it a Fender guitar that Marty McFly was playing? Kind of going back to our conversation about Coldplay. I thought it was a Fender.
It was a Gibson.
Ah, it was a Gibson. Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
I'm an idiot.
No. I mean, yeah, but the key here is his last name. It means church, which is the church, which is a reference to Galaxy. But there's more with Liverpool. I mean, yeah, there's so much symbolism with this team. So I just want to familiarize. So if anyone wants to, there's somebody named Andrew Basiago. I don't know if anyone's heard that name, but he's pretty popular in the so-called truth community. Andrew Basiago. He says that he was in a U.S. government, I guess the CIA was involved, time travel project and dimensional travel project, which included teleportation. He says that. He's done multiple talks. He's still doing guest appearances. And this is a screenshot taken from a video where he actually does some talks. And where he says that he still swears by it and he names names. He says when he was a child, he was in a U.S. government multi-dimensional time travel and teleportation project called Project Pegasus. And he says that. He names names. He says that Bill Richardson, who is the former governor of New Mexico, he was part of the program. Now, Basiago was a child at the time, according to his Basiago is how you pronounce it. Donald Rumsfeld, the former Secretary of Defense of the United States, Basiago names him, and he remembers him as a child as being part of running that program. Donald Rumsfeld, Bill Richardson, former New Mexico governor, former Secretary of Defense. He says Barack Obama was his age as a child, and he says Barack Obama was part of that. This is Basiago's testimony, and he's repeated this over and over again. I mean, he hasn't been accused of any kind of slander or libel or challenge. He's been stating this, and he names Regina Dugan. He names her, and she worked for DARPA, and so she's roughly the same age as he is. So they were both children, and according to his testimony, they did time travel, and they also did teleportation. Now, this may seem wild to some people, but that's his testimony, and he's just put Andrew Basiago, Project Pegasus. You'll get tons and tons of videos.
Before we move on from Pegasus, in simple gematria, Pegasus equals 88.
You were ahead of me because very good. I actually had that for. Usually AJ does it. He jumps ahead, but no, that's good. He shows you're on top of it.
Sorry.
No.
I was going to say, at least I'm not the only one this time.
Yeah, not just you. But it shows everybody switched in. Yeah, Pegasus 88. Is that a coincidence? No, probably not. But it's so this is Regina Dugan, who he says was, as a child, Basiago said she did time travel as well. She did teleportation as well with him, and she's a part of DARPA, according to her Wikipedia, and also according to Basiago himself. She's comes out of DARPA, so DARPA has some advanced technology out there, which maybe that was part of what is being alluded to from Trump's White House director of science and technology. But so yeah, that's something to look into. And I could not get a. So what YouTube does is, if you look at, if you get movies off of YouTube from their YouTube movie channel, you cannot take screenshots. You'll just get a black. So I had trouble getting a screenshot of this. But in Donnie Darko, when Donnie's younger sister and mother go to LA to do their performance, and they're on their way back and they're at the airport, Donnie's younger sister is holding a stuffed toy animal, and it's a Pegasus. I really wish I could get that image. It was a big process to try and get it because YouTube, they have this technology. You should get a movie on YouTube, you can't take a screenshot. It ends up
yeah, it'd do the same thing like if you're watching Netflix on your phone. There's no way you're gonna record that. You can't even I think screen record to try to grab music from iTunes. Like they even know that. Like that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So they're smart with that crap.
That would have been a great image to show, but they do reference Project Pegasus in Donnie Darko. His younger sister is holding a Pegasus stuffed toy in her arms at the airport. That's a direct reference to this project. I really wish I could show that image, but so this, yeah, Regina Dugan's part of it. She's part of DARPA. He names her Pegasus 88. And so this is what I was talking when you talk about NASA's involvement. So Richard Kelly. So James Richard Kelly is an American film director, screenwriter, and producer. He wrote and directed the films Donnie Darko and a couple others, Southland Tales, The Box. So this is kind of his claim to fame, is Donnie Darko, Richard Kelly. Kelly grew up in Midlothian, Virginia, where he attended Midlothian High School and graduated in 1993. He was a child. When he was a child, his father worked for NASA on the Mars Viking lander. So NASA has its fingerprints all over Donnie Darko as well. And there is a reference to his father's Mars Viking lander because there's a Halloween party in Back to the Future. One of his Donnie Darko's friends is dressed as a Viking. That is a symbol, an indication of the director's father's involvement in the NASA Mars Vikinglander. That's why you see a Viking at the Halloween party. And that's another thing too. Just it's so hard to see, but the house appears to be house number 25. It's year 2025. And real quick, this is a football reference. I mean, not everybody's a sports fan, but there's a reference to Mark Rippon. They're watching football because they're in Virginia, so they're fans of the at the time Redskins, now called the Commanders. So Washington D.C. has a lot to do with this. And Mark Rippon in 1988, the Washington Redskins won the Super Bowl, but that was in January, January 31st, 131, which is a big Back to the Future number. That's the name of the number on the locomotive that enables them to time travel to push the DeLorean to 88 miles an hour. It was locomotive number 131. Where it was on 131, January 31st, 1988, that the Washington Redskins won the Super Bowl, and they beat John Elway and the Denver Broncos, John Denver. They defeated them in that Super Bowl. It is referenced in Back to the Future. Now, Back to the Future takes place in October, so this is the following season. In January, the Redskins won the Super Bowl, and it's very historic because it was the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl was Doug Williams. Doug Williams is in Donnie Darko for a split second. They actually show you Doug Williams, the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl with the Washington Redskins in 1988. Doug Williams was born 88 days before Marty McFly time traveled to November 5th, 1955. Doug Williams was born 88 days before November 5th, 1955. So I tried to get the Doug Williams screenshot, and that was a big hassle as well. That would have been a good one too. But Doug Williams of the Washington Redskins is a big part of it. But so the following season, Williams had a poor season. They reference that in Donnie Darko. They're watching football, and they have the commentator. And this is actually a quote, what the commentator says while they're watching football, because they're in Virginia. They're all Redskins fans. The quote was, Mark Rippon, who's the backup, certainly has some big shoes to fill. Talking about Doug Williams' shoes, because Doug Williams won a Super Bowl. And Mark Rippon was a backup. He was going to come into the game that they were watching. So why are they referencing Mark Rippon? Remember Back to the Future, it's all about October 2nd, 1988. That's Mark Rippon's birthday, October 2nd. So this actually could be close for the next Super Bowl, maybe. Because Mark Rippon would end up winning Super Bowl 26 for the Washington Redskins. So could that be a reference to the Super Bowl in the year 26? In the year 26, there'll be a Super Bowl. Well, he won Super Bowl 26, Mark Rippon. He's directly referenced. They name him by name. Mark Rippon certainly has some big shoes to fill. They say that in Donnie Darko. And his birthday is October 2nd.
And to that point, Rambo, Grandma Death, you guys have all seen Donnie Darko, right? I think I'm the last one on the train, just having seen it recently. But Roberta Sparrow, right? The old, grandmother that lives by herself and wrote the time travel book. There's a part in the movie where they say that she is 101 years old, which is the 26th prime. So that's why I wanted to throw that in there about the 26th.
And I actually haven't seen it, so this is definitely on my must-watch list after the show for sure. But when we were talking pre-show, Washington, D.C. happened to come up, and this was even before I really knew what your presentation was. I mean, I knew it was going to be on Donnie Darko, but I didn't know that the connection that was going to have in your work. I'd covered the Bunny Man and the Bunny Man Bridge and kind of that local folklore from the Washington, D.C. area. Basically, back in the 70s, there were news reports that had come out. There was a man who was dressed up in a bunny costume with a hatchet that was actually going around and trespassing different places, had committed some assaults, and was even rumored to have murdered some local teenagers and things like that. So the Bunny Man was a very real thing in the Washington, D.C. area at that time when kids were growing up, and it was something they were really afraid of. And so when you brought that up in your work, it's just interesting. And when I had done some research into the Bunny Man legend, Donnie Darko came up there too.
That's incredible. Yeah, especially going back to Rambo's, touching on the movie, right? Rambo, keep me honest here. It opens with the song "The Killing Moon" by Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah, this is
Crazy.
Echo and the
Yo,
Bunnymen.
that's what I thought when I was hearing it today. I was like, "Yo, is that Echo and the Bunnymen?"
Yeah, it's Echo and the Bunnymen. And where are they from? They are from Liverpool. So that connects it to Liverpool, and
Wow.
yeah, Liverpool is very connected to this. So yeah, through the Bunnymen, Liverpool, the church under the Milky Way is in it, and then they opened this season with a goal in the 88th by someone who never plays. Suddenly he scores in the 88th. His name is Chiesa, which means church. Yeah, and his birthday is October 25th. Yeah, so yeah, the Bunnyman is very. And remember that the Pope died on Easter. The bunny, he died at 88. The Time Travel Project, he's from Argentina. The Time Travel Project, the Bell Project, very well could have moved to Argentina. So yeah, those are amazing connections. This is, I mean, I can do more, but that's more like a football decode, more for a more sports oriented crowd. But I'll just leave it on this one here. There's this is called the Anderson Institute. It's about time travel. So if you're interested, go to andersoninstitute.com. I don't know if I click this, if I'll lose the page, but I'll just give an idea. It's about time travel. If for anyone who wants to look more, you have to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, whatever you see there.
I'm already on it, boss. I'm already on it.
Oh, okay, okay. So
I love
Anderson,
that.
the Anderson Institute. Take it with a grain of salt, obviously. And anything you see there, it's welcome to Anderson Institute, and it's just look at the different pages: time, temporal measurement, time definition and standards, religion and time, philosophy and time, physical definition of time, time control techniques, time travel, experiments in time control, perception of time, culture. So yeah, just take a look at this. Again, take it with a grain of salt. But it's for this subject, this is a site that anyone who's interested in this subject will find interesting. Yes, yeah, I'll leave it there. I'll end my presentation there.
Thank you. Can we pull that down? Oh, I think you got it on your right.
It's going to be hard to follow that one up.
Yeah.
No, you had some great stuff. I think you got a great follow up.
I appreciate
Thanks. Yeah, no problem.
Oh, thank you. Did any of you guys want to say anything or add anything? Okay.
No, this is interesting. I'm definitely gonna go back and watch the movie again, and then I'm gonna go watch this episode again.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say, at least with my piece, I don't want to chime in too much because I got plenty else I can share, but I do want to be cognizant of time. I know that we are, just over that hour and a half part, but yeah, the first thing I got to mention, like I said, I thought I was last on the train, or the DeLorean, maybe I should say, when it came to watching Donnie Darko. But Brooke, hopefully, you know what? I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be giving you some spoilers. So like you're gonna know what's going to happen, but hopefully by some of the stuff I can share, you'll be able to see those things that I point out, and then I'm sure you're going to see a lot of other things yourself that we haven't seen either. But I want to preface what I have to share by saying that once Rambo really pushed me to watch this movie, I decided to watch the director's cut instead of the theatrical cut. Both of them are free on YouTube. So anybody that's watching, that's interested in rewatching it or watching it for the first time, it's available for free on YouTube. I made the decision to watch the director's cut because I made an assumption, and we know what assuming does. I just assumed that it was just longer, but everything from the theatrical cut is also in it, but that's not true. So some of the stuff I'm going to share with you guys is actually from the director's cut, which is not what most people saw unless they went out of their way to see the director's cut, right? So I just want to put that disclaimer in there. But I do have my screen ready to go, Nick, if you want to flip it over.
Oh, I got to...
So I will say, too, a handful of these things Rambo has already touched on. I'm just adding a different little lens to it, and I have been able to show some actual scenes from the movie. This actually took a lot of work because if you screenshot on YouTube, since it's for free, and you try to paste it somewhere, it's just a blank screen, just so you know. So I had to use my phone to like take a photo of my laptop. But obviously, we talked a lot about those 119s and how it's related to 9/11 and everything else that Rambo touched on. But let's not forget that a big part of Donnie Darko is about a plane crash that happens, and the jet engine in two different scenarios falls through Donnie Darko's bedroom, right? And the whole 119 themes. And this movie came out in 2001, the same year of 9/11, right? But the first thing, we've been talking a lot about bunnies, bunny rabbits, that kind of stuff. And Donald Trump. A big part of this presentation is going to reference Donald Trump. And another thing I want to say is what I really love about what Rambo's shown about how time equals 20 and 25 in the Pythagorean ciphers front and back. You guys are really going to see how this movie right now in this year is so relevant to what's been going on. Don't forget about how many plane crashes and helicopter crashes have you guys seen this year? Seriously, I mean, I've lost count at this point. But my point is one thing we haven't talked about, what happened late last year, was something that happened with Trump. But this is an opening scene from the movie where Donnie and his sister are talking shit to each other, essentially, across the dinner table. And Donnie goes, "I'm all ears. I'm all ears." That's the obvious bunny rabbit connection. But what else happened last year? Donnie Trump avoided being assassinated by getting shot where? Not the arm, not the leg, the ear. The ear. Donnie Darko, Donald Trump, I'm all ears. Okay. Now, like I mentioned, there's two different times when this jet engine falls through Donnie Darko's room. And the first time, Donnie is not in his room because he's out meeting with this creepy bunny rabbit named Frank. And the house gets destroyed, and the family has to then move, or essentially live in a hotel. It's are so distraught. They're living in their own room in the hotel. The kids are doing their own thing in the other room. But once again, this is the director's cut. This is not in the actual theatrical cut. The father says he dodged his bullet, Rose. He dodged his bullet. Well, so Donnie Darko dodged his bullet, and Donnie Trump dodged his bullet. Both in the ear. I'm all ears. You guys follow me? Right? So I just had that image to kind of correlate that. But what also happened, yeah, Nick's already ahead of me on this one. Speaking of shootings, what is one of the most recent shootings besides what happened today in Minnesota? I would say the other big mass shooting story was reportedly at in front of the CDC, right? And that was also right next to Emory University. There was an officer that was killed. His name is David Rose. Well, Donnie Darko's mother just so happens to be named Rose. And it's saying right here, he dodged his bullet, Rose, and now we have David Rose being honored at a memorial service with the CDC shooting. Well, when did the CDC shooting happen? August 8th, the date written 8/8. Is that not the one number that we've been talking about the most probably this entire stream?
Yeah.
So on 8/8, Rose gets shot and killed. There's a part of this about Derek Rose, and I just say that from a sports lens. So for those that aren't familiar with me, a lot of the way I look at things and focus on is sports related. So I understand some of these things might not be relevant to you guys, but just so you know, Derek Rose is a player that's been out of the league for a while, but he is going to be honored as not a Hall of Famer, but they're going to retire his jersey as a Chicago Bull next year. But I reference him because of the Rose connection. And this news came out shortly after this CDC shooting. So you have Officer David Rose, D. Rose, shot and killed. And then shortly after, you have Derek Rose, D. Rose, who is now going to be, his jersey's going to get put in the rafters forever to start next year. That matters because, like Nick touched on, Donnie Darko takes place in the year 88. Well, it just so happens that Derek Rose was also born in the year 88, right? Where Trump equals 88, etc. So here's just a screenshot of one of the latest stories in the news when it comes to the world of the NBA. Rambo already touched on this, so this is just a screenshot from the Mark. How do you pronounce that last name, Rambo? Ripien?
Rippin.
Yeah.
He
so
won
Mark.
Super Bowl 26. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just a scene from what Rambo was already touching on, where in the background they do show quick glimpses of the TV screen where they show David Williams, and then and they're losing the game and they're all upset.
Doug Williams,
sorry. But here's a mic drop for you guys. You guys better make sure to pay attention to this one. So at the end of the movie, right, as they're counting down those 28 days, and we talked a lot about that countdown, right? And like I said, this movie is so relevant to today's times with I'm all ears, Trump getting shot in the ear, etc. But Nick, you brought up, who'd you bring up earlier? Well, you brought up Trump, but I'm saying,
Elon, Rose.
The death of
AJ. Hulk Hogan. Yeah, Hulk Hogan. My bad.
So at the end of this movie, you guys, it's in both the director's and the theatrical cut. There's a Halloween party, and one of Donnie's best friends is dressed up as Hulk Hogan. We're in the year of plane crashes. We're in the year of the death of Hulk Hogan. Time equals 20 and 25. We're in the year 2025. Okay. Now, there's another big piece to this, and Rambo, if you want to elaborate maybe a little bit, but, and Brooke, I'm giving away the whole story, the gist of it, really. But so after this Halloween party, that's when time is running out. And there's this whole scene where all I'm going to tell you is that Donnie's girlfriend gets killed. Okay. I'll just leave it at that. But after she is killed, Donnie is walking down the street holding his girlfriend in the same exact pose that Hulk Hogan is holding Miss Elizabeth. And there's a lot to be said about that whole ritual and those types of alignments. Not to mention Donnie Darko's sister in this movie, her name is Elizabeth. So just keep that in mind. But how perfect is this from the pose? And I caught on to a lot of this because of Rambo, honestly, with the things that he's been pointing out about Hulk Hogan. So I'm like, wait a minute. So right before his girlfriend dies, he's standing right next to Hulk Hogan, essentially. And then now he's walking down the street holding Miss Elizabeth like Hulk Hogan. And Rambo, pass it off to you for a second. Was this particular scene not in the year 88? I know it was in the mid to late 80s, but.
Yeah, so when Hulk Hogan did this, this was at that Twin Towers collapsing prediction that they did. It was February 3rd, I believe. It's 2-3, February 3rd or March 2nd. It was in 1989. So
okay.
Donnie Darko came out in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
So the Hulk Hogan did that in 1989.
Which is interesting because Queen Elizabeth died on 8/9, right? But yeah, so this is the screenshot I had here. Well, it didn't show Elizabeth talking, but this is right before he goes upstairs, knowing that the plane is going to crash again and the jet engine is going to fall in his bed and he's going to die the second time. But he kisses his sister who's sleeping, gives her a kiss, and then he goes upstairs. But they're also playing the Star Spangled Banner in the background. So there's a lot of that patriotic symbolism associated with that too. And then I kind of have a segue, I guess. It's all still Donnie Darko related, but I'll pause there if anybody had anything else to add or share or any questions. Are we good?
I'll just mention, you said the Derek Rose birthday?
Yeah. October 4th, 88.
Right. So in Back to the Future 1, when they time travel, when they use the lightning bolt at the clock tower to travel back to 1985, when the lightning bolt hits the clock tower freezes at 10:04.
Oh man.
So it's exactly 10:04 p.m. When they travel back to 1985. So Derek Rose has so his birthday is a Back to the Future reference. October 4th is also relevant to the changeover from the Julian calendar to Gregorian. October 4th was, I think it was the last day. Anyway, like, they missed, I think they skipped 8 days or something.
Yeah, one of the popes changed the days. I think it was actually the 15th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I think also the last day of the Julian was October 4th. The next day was the 15th. So in a way, October 4th. Yeah. So imagine that you go to bed on October 4th, you wake up and it's October 15th, and it's the next day.
Yeah.
So yes. So
it's crazy how that happened, right? Because a pope wanted to change it too. That's crazy.
And there were protests. People saying we want our what was it, like 8 days or something? They were protesting we want our days back. People lost time. They literally lost time. They wanted it back. But so October 4th as a date and a 10:04 on the clock and Back to the Future is a reference to that. It's almost like time actually literally jumped ahead.
Yeah, no kidding. Shoot, hold on. Let me get it back here. Okay, so probably my favorite. So just so you guys know, I'm not sharing this presentation in the full flow of the movie. So I am kind of going back and forth to different parts of it. But I would say my favorite scene, and I think one of the most iconic scenes, is when Donnie and Frank, the name of the bunny, are talking to each other in the movie theater. Nick, you said you were watching some of it earlier.
Yeah.
How far did you get?
This part, I remember this part.
Yeah, I mean, it is such an iconic scene. It's so good because this is the first time that you get to see Frank take his mask off, right? And one of the most iconic lines in the movie is Frank's sitting there, or sorry, Donnie's sitting there with his girlfriend who's asleep watching this movie, and then Frank shows up, and he does this kind of little sly smirk on his face, and he asks Frank, he goes, "Why are you wearing that stupid bunny suit?" And then Frank, with the mask still on, looks over at him and he goes, "Why are you wearing that stupid man suit?" And then like you just see like the life kind of come out of Donnie. He's like, "Oh, I thought I was being clever." But as you can see, one of his eyes, his right eye, is busted. And, you know, essentially says, "What happened to your eye?" And Frank says, "You should know that." Or I think he said, "I'm so sorry." But anyways, point is that it's a very iconic scene. Okay. And really the second part of my presentation here, I'm going to blow through. It's just a lot of images. But I did a video on my YouTube channel called It's About Dame Time. And this is related to a player over here on the right. His name is Damian Lillard. But he goes by Dame Time. That's essentially his nickname. And sure enough, we have another 88 right here, Damian Lillard, 88, right? And when I made this video, this was when news reports came out that Damian Lillard, who could arguably be a Hall of Famer at some point, he's ending his prime. He got released by the Milwaukee Bucks, and this is before anyone knew what team he was going to end up on. Okay, and what I touched on in this video, I know there's a lot of numbers on the screen here, but follow me and you guys will get it. So I connected this to LeBron James because LeBron James, when he won his first championship, the very first words he said was, "It's about damn time." Right? So it made me think about damn time and Dame Time. And this is what blew my mind, especially with how it's related to Rambo and his birthday. This is just crazy. So when Damian Lillard was waived by the Bucks, that was July 1st of this year. If you measure back to the date when LeBron won his first championship and he said it's about Dame Time, or a damn time, that was a span of exactly 4,759 days, which is the 641st prime number, and 641 is the 116th prime number. Well, what time is it on the Twin Pines Mall sign, right? In Back to the Future, 116. What else equals 116? Portland. Portland equals 116. That blew my freaking mind. And like I said, Rambo's birthday is on the date written 11/6. And he's the one that really kind of kicked off this whole Back to the Future thing for me.
And if you were to reverse that 6, that would be another 9/11 reference with the twins as well.
you could just flip the number entirely upside down. It's going to be 9/11.
Yeah.
Right. But anyways, so that here's just another scene, right? When Frank pops up and they're having that conversation. Remember Portland, okay? Portland. Well, one of the main reasons why Frank shows up is because he's showing Donnie a portal, like a time traveling portal. And so this is Frank, and then you think of portal. It's only 2 letters off from Portland, isn't it? Portal, Portland, right? Those 2 letters missing are N and D. And as soon as I saw that, being the sports fan that I am, I nearly fell out of my chair. You know why? Because we had the college football championship game earlier this year held on January 20th, the 20th day of 2025. Shout out Rambo about time equaling 20 and 25. So this is the 20th day of 25. ND is Notre Dame. They were in the championship game. Notre Dame. Damian Lillard. Damian, right? Dame time. Who did they lose to? Ohio State. Why does that matter? What is their mascot? The Buckeyes. The Buckeyes. And Damian Lillard got released by who? The Bucks. And where did he go back to? He went back to where he originally played, in Portland. You guys see that? Damian Lillard played in Portland, plays for the Bucks, leaves, goes back to Portland. And then you just look at the college football championship. The Buckeyes versus ND, Notre Dame. Absolutely perfect. And I saw this article, The Atlantic says, Damian Lillard returns to Portland and he eyes a fresh start back home. So I know it's a little difficult, Brooke, like especially if you haven't seen it. I was very late to the game, if you will. But it was screaming at me, especially because when the portal comes into the movie screen, they show a clock, right? The whole time travel theme. Dame Lillard, he always does this pose right here. He keeps tapping on his wrist. It's my time. It's Dame time. And with all of that, it just blew my mind too. And this segues into a whole different decode that Rambo and I were talking about. But Portland is home of the Meyer and Frank building. I mean, it's huge. It's a historical landmark in Portland. The Meyer and Frank building, the name of the bunny. See what I'm saying? So, and then a handful of this other stuff we already talked about. This is just the screenshot that Rambo was talking about where Donnie Darko is talking to his professor about time travel. And then the teacher says, most likely a spacecraft or some sort of device to time travel. And he says, like a DeLorean. And the teacher kind of looks at him like, what? And he says, I love that movie, the way they shot it. Thought it was funny. There's another shooting reference there. But here's my last thing. So for another Back to the Future connection, I mentioned earlier about Grandma Death, aka Roberta Sparrow, who wrote this book about time travel. Okay, this is the teacher gives this to Donnie and his eyes light up because earlier in the movie, he nearly hits this woman here, Roberta Sparrow. You can see on the mailbox. And he made the connection that, oh my God, this crazy woman here that stands in the street and checks her mail all the time, she wrote this book. Another Trump connection there. Think about 2020, in the year of what was a big political issue at that time? Voter mail fraud, right? And Trump trying to get back in office. So Roberta Sparrow whispers something to Donnie. He gets curious about her, but notice what he's wearing. He's wearing that jean jacket, right? Doesn't Roberta Sparrow kind of look like somebody from Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Doc Brown, perhaps? So you have Doc Brown, and then you have Marty McFly, who always wore that jean jacket. See what I'm saying? That's my presentation. Just showing how much those two movies overlap and how Donnie Darko coincides with the college football national championship game, tying back into what's going on with Dame Lillard in the NBA, tying back to the death of Hulk Hogan, talking about going back to this was in 2024 technically, but we have the shooting of Trump in the ear, right? And then also this CDC shooting that took place on August 8th, 8/8. So thank you very much for giving me that time to share what I found, the first time and a half that I was able to watch it. So
thank you. It's bugged out stuff, man. And like, what do you think like this all comes down to though? This is a whole shit that I can't even wrap my mind around it though. It's like there's something there, but I can't figure out what the fuck.
Yeah, that's my main question too. Is like what's the meaning behind it all?
I mean, I think that's the most commonly asked question I get, where they go, "Oh wow, cool, yeah, no, that's very interesting," but like, so what? Like, so what am I supposed to take away from this? And I don't know. I think it just my interpretation is that they're telling us things, but only people that have eyes to see have that discernment to start making those connections themselves. But do I have the answer? No, absolutely not.
I was just gonna say like I kind of think like that it's their entertainment. Everybody wants to see a story not necessarily of themselves, but something that's similar that they can watch that's entertaining wise, and they take this and put it in the movies and television shows. So the ones who know will be more entertained because they can figure it out. And just like us, when we're figuring out little by little, it's entertaining each time we watch it. You never really watch a good movie just one time. You watch it plenty of times, and every time you watch it, it's something new that you catch from it that you enjoy. And you're like, oh, there's that one old moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like for me, the glaring one was Hulk Hogan. I was like, are you serious? This guy's sitting here dressed as Hulk Hogan, standing right next to Donnie in a skeleton suit, looking all depressed, It's crazy.
And it goes back, can you tell the future? I mean, if somebody would have figured all this out, before, all this stuff that actually happened, people would say, oh, this person is just, they're just crazy, or, they're not trustworthy, or something's wrong with them. We need to put them in the hospital. 20, 30 years later, everything lines up, but then people already forgot about that person they locked up 20, 30 years ago.
Fair enough. But yeah, I've said my piece.
One thing I thought was weird with numbers, like, when I was asking you, like, what do you think it is? I really couldn't tell you either, but I think there's something there. But there has been times, and this is especially with true crime. Me and Lisa did like a 5 or 6 parts on like Gilgo Beach, like basically just straight Gematria, going along with the Book of Lies from Aleister Crowley. And there was just like so many things that matched up with like the characters and this and that. And like at the end, we were still like, I have no idea what that was. But then like we both noticed from doing tons more of Gematria's stuff with true crime that I would start to see the same numbers popping up. And then I was just like starting to wonder, like, is that kind of like, how you were saying earlier with the Matrix or whatever? Is that like a code that you see just a horrific stuff like that happening? Or something like that. I don't know. It was just weird how I would started to see a lot of numbers popping up for people dying that was in the news. It was just weird, and who knows? Maybe that's something that has something, like when people say like, well, what's behind it? Is that maybe a script, or is that a certain energetic value that's going through like an egregore or some shit? I don't know, but maybe there's something with that stuff.
Brooke, what are your thoughts, or Rambo?
I feel like this was the quickest 2 hours ever. I looked at the clock and I'm like, there's no way this is actually 10 o'clock. I was hooked on every word. It was such an engaging presentation. I took so many notes. It's just so interesting how this is all connected. And as you were talking, some personal connections that were coming up for me, I was like, this is so wild. I wish I did know the deeper meaning as to what it is, but I think Nick's right. I think it really is this bigger picture, and I wish it's like we're almost there. We're just missing that little last piece of what it is. But I think it takes looking into these things, and to Tyrone's point too, if somebody would have talked about this maybe I don't know, maybe back in 2001 or a few years ago before this stuff happened, they probably would have called him crazy. But look at that one guy who was talking about Diddy and shot up, what was it, one of Trump's hotels. And they were like, oh, that he's just a mental health case. Like he's nuts. And then it comes out like everything he was saying was true. He was really there. And yeah, and this was just an incredible presentation.
Hopefully it elevates your watch of Donnie Darko and it didn't completely ruin it for you.
No, not at all. I have it on here. I'm definitely going to
Definitely gonna
watch
check
it.
that movie out.
I'm going to
Crazy.
watch both. Since you said the director's cut and the regular version.
Yes, the majority of what I shared, well, not the majority, but there are scenes like he dodged a bullet, Rose, when they're laying in bed. When you see that scene, you'll notice that the dad does not say that if you're watching the theatrical cut.
That's interesting.
That's just one example, but either way, whichever one you watch, you got the gist of some of the main things I saw, at least. But Rambo, yeah, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, we're always, when we see these patterns and how intricately they seem to intersect, we'll always ask how much of this is the natural, you could say, code just manifesting itself, and how much of it is consciously manipulated. And a good degree of it is manipulated, but you look at certain things and you can say, well, how is it possible to manipulate that? And they have supercomputers. The highest form of AI is not something that the public gets to see. I mean, Chat GPT is a joke compared to what they'll never show you.
I hope it is.
Yeah, they'll never show you the pinnacle of technology. The public will never see it. You'll find out about technologies, 10, 20, 30 years after they were originally invented. I think the internet was around in the 60s, if not the 50s. I mean, fiber optics. There's advanced AI which is involved, but there is also, and I can't say to what percentage or in what case for sure, it is being, a lot of these are manipulated consciously by humans, and maybe they're using technology to some degree. Like, okay, so like the player named Chiesa, whose church lines up with the church, and Donnie Darko, he scores in the 88th minute. The way that goal happened, you couldn't rehearse that. The ball just bounced around like a pinball in the area. There were two defenders from the opposition who kind of clattered into each other. The ball bounced off their heads, bounced off of them just randomly, and fell perfectly for Chiesa. It fell perfect, just the right height, so he could volley it in the 88th minute. You can't rehearse that. So things like that, you can plan his name. No, he's Italian, and name his church. They know about Echo and the Bunnymen. They can know about Donnie Darko and the Killing Moon. And I don't know when Echo and the Bunnymen, I guess they must have come up with that name, in 84-ish or earlier on. And then you coordinate that with the movie. I guess that can be done, but there's certain things where you'll always speculate how much of it. But even when it is manipulated, it's manipulated according to a certain set of rules.
That's what I think.
So you're at least seeing the rules. So my thing is, maybe one of the quests is, if it's even knowable from our limited, and I guess I'll speak for myself, I have a limited intellect. I don't have a computer brain. How much of this is even knowable? But the thing we'd want to know, curiously, is what are these rules? Whether they manifest on their own or some program to the matrix, or who programmed the matrix, but also to the extent that people are consciously manipulating events, which a good degree of it is. The Truman Show has truth to it. This is the Truman Show. A lot is manipulated. It's not just things you see in the news or big events and movies. No, everyday life. Yes, there's a lot of manipulation. I've seen it for myself. I have seen it for myself. The level of manipulation is beyond what I could ever imagine. Then the question is, who's writing these rules? Or what are the rules? This is, I don't know, it's good to explore for people who are inquisitive. I mean, look, I respect people who are, look, this stuff is unknowable. I should go about my life. I mean, if that's their approach, that's their approach. But I can't live like that. I mean, if I have to die trying to find out, well, so be it. I can't just not know the truth. And like Neo in the Matrix, Morpheus told him, like, I'm paraphrasing, like, you always had a sense that there was more to life than meets the eye, and that there was an itch in your mind that you always wanted to scratch. I'm paraphrasing. Well, I've had that itch in my mind, which I can't live without scratching it. So, yeah,
That's a good way to put it.
I get that for sure. Nice.
they say oh, sorry, no, that's okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask if anybody had any questions or wanted to say anything. Or Tyrone or Brooke. No, all right.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, so am I. That was just like a lot of shit that is just like, fuck. I don't even know what to say to all that. It's just fucking bizarre. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I want to be hitting them up because I'm gonna go back, like I said, watch the movie, and I'm gonna ask my questions afterwards. You know me, you know how I like to do.
Yeah, but yo, thank you so much. Real quick before we wrap it up, I'll let everybody plug themselves again. And for so some of the listeners that are here, that I think there's some new ones, whatever, and I've had obviously newer people sub recently. If you're into this Gematria stuff, I've had them on before. And they did some great stuff. And then I also did, like I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure it was either Elon Musk or somebody. I think it was Elon Musk and Back to the Future. When we covered Gilgo Beach, we kept on seeing those as reoccurrence matches as well. So if people want to check that out, that like what I was trying to talk about, how like multiple things that are popular are coming up at the same time, you can check that out. And then we also have like a 3-part series on Gematria and ciphers and the histories of it that me and Lisa did that as well. That's it was like 3 or 4-part series on that. Definitely check that out if you want to know more about like the history and like who created what and what orders had what and this and that. You guys touched on some of it tonight, but it was about 6 or 7 hours worth that we put out. So check that out if you're interested into like the number shit. And I'll shut up and I'll stop plugging the Occult Rejects. And Brooke, let everybody know where they can find all your amazing stuff.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again for having me. And thank you so much for this presentation. I mean, I was really hooked from beginning to end. When I looked down and I looked at the clock, I was like, there's no way. You guys are great. I loved your decode. Thank you so much. You can find me on Instagram at Dark Florida Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts. I'll be there. Thank you again for having me, Nick.
Of course. No, thank you. And I know you entertain this stuff, so I had to get you on.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
My man, Tyrone, what is going on, sir?
I appreciate that presentation, y'all. Like I said, I'm gonna go back and watch that movie right after this. Actually, I'm gonna work on an article and go ahead and watch it in the background. Everything you can find on me is on my website, rebirthoftheword.com, and my book, Journey Through the Origins of History, can be bought on Amazon. Hey, I really do appreciate that because I learned a lot of stuff today. Took a lot of notes.
Weird. Yeah, thank you. And AJ, now let everybody know where they can find your stuff at. So.
Yeah, I was about to ask Tyrone what book that was. Journey Through the Origin of History?
Yep, Journey Through the Origins of History. Yep, it went bestseller on Amazon.
Okay, awesome. I don't sell any of my books on Amazon. This is all kind of self-published stuff, but I do have 9 mini books I've written just about a ton of different topics. A lot of them kind of originate from the world of sports, and then it really starts to web out to what's going on in the world of sports, as well as history and current events, etc. So I do have 10 books total overall. They are available for purchase on my Patreon .com/on the Moneyball. However, if you guys are ever interested in, don't have a few bucks to spare, I can send this to any of you guys for free at wordplaybook with 3 O's in book at gmail.com. And Nick, thank you again. I've had a blast. I'm with Brooke. I looked up and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, we're flirting with 2 hours. That's a good sign in the sense of we've covered a lot of ground and there's been a lot of interest. And, so I really appreciate it. Brooke, very nice to meet you. Tyrone, it's been great to meet you. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways by being a part of your show, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, thank you. I really, I always appreciate when you guys bring your stuff here. And Rambo, please let everybody know what's going on and where they can find your stuff.
Well, thanks again for hosting me, and again for AJ for putting it together, for getting me on, and thanks for the positive reception. And
of course,
Yeah. And if where I can be found is patreon.com/the-truth-codes. There's only one tier, $5. There's access to a Discord codebreaker community server, $5. There's some free content, but I am also on Instagram, the Truth Codes on Instagram. And that's where I can be found.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I will make sure all that stuff is in there. Shout out to TJ. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, contemporary problems, but everybody knows, I think he knows who he probably is. Cult Rejects does the numbers. Just shout out to him. Wish he would have been here. But thank you everybody in the chat. And that is what's up. There was a lot of people here. I think there was some, well, I can see on the other end. So I mean, there was new names for me. They may not have been on my channel, but I saw new people commenting. I tried to throw up as much as I could. And thank you. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.